In this video, I'm going to show you how to sand drywall. Take a look at the wall behind me. I sand and finished this wall myself. And I'm going to show you step by step on how I did it. And if you're new to this channel, my name's Josh. This channel is all about DIY to save a ton of money. So be sure to subscribe, ring that bell so you get notification every time I release a new video, and hammer that like button for me. That's all I ask in return for making this video. So sanding drywall really isn't complicated, but let me show you how to do it. Now that we got the third coat on all the drywall and it's skimmed and we're ready to sand. So in order to sand, the biggest go-to that you'll want to get is a pole sander. And this is a sanding head that has rubber edges so you don't damage the corners of the wall when you're in there. And we can switch out the sanding pads so we can switch to different grits if we have to. So let me show you the different grit sandpaper that I got for this. The sanding head is the same brand as the knives that I bought to finish the drywall. And it came with these sanding discs. We actually got 100 grit, we got 180, and then we got 80 grit. So between the three grits, you'll have plenty of different sandpaper for your most rough areas down to your most finished areas. So if you're sanding and you notice a really rough patch of a wall, you can switch to the 80 grit, but typically we just keep the 100 grit on here. And that comes with the head, like I said. And then along with that, you're wanting to get a sanding sponge. These sanding sponges are great for corners, and this one has dual grit. There's a coarse side, then there's a more fine side. So this is going to be great. Again, rough areas you want the more coarse, and then the more smooth areas you're going to want to use the more fine. Then of course you need safety glasses and a respirator so that way you don't breathe in the dust. For this demonstration, I'll probably keep this stuff off until I have it explained, and then once I go wide open, I'll put it on. So if you want to purchase any of this stuff, there's going to be a link in the description below so you can check it out. In order to put the sandpaper onto the head, it's a hook and loop system, so it's like Velcro. It simply just Velcros right onto the head like so. So as you can see, it's stuck on there and ready to sand. I'm going to show you how to sand the walls and the corners of the walls because they both require two different techniques. So the biggest important part of sanding is making sure you have a well-lit room that you're trying to sand. So I like to carry a light with me so that way we can shine it up the edge of the wall so you can see all the imperfections while you're sanding. You don't want to think you got everything sanded well, you shine a light, then you see all these imperfections. So a well-lit area is very important. So I'm going to begin by taking my pole sander and sanding this part here that we finished throughout this video. And let me go step by step on how to do this. So I'm first going to turn my light on so I can see well and shine it accordingly. Now that I can see the imperfections in the drywall mud, I'm just going to start with my pole sander and sand where all the joints are, where all the drywall mud is primarily located, and just try to smooth it out and get all of the imperfections out that you can. So as you sand, just keep inspecting to make sure you don't over sand, because once you get the imperfections out, and if you notice a big imperfection, don't try to get it all the way out in one shot. You're going to have to touch that up with drywall mud, wait for it to dry, then finish sanding. But as of right now, we can easily sand this. So we're just going and sanding like so, and inspecting and making sure that we're going to have a nice smooth flat surface. And this is when you'll be thankful you use the mid-weight mud, because if you use that full strength mud, it doesn't sand near this easy. And then right here where it blends from the drywall to the joint that we finished, you want to give it a little extra attention because that's where it has to blend together. And something really important that you need to remember, you don't want to sand really hard on the paper, the drywall, because it'll make it fray, and when you paint it, it's going to raise up that paper, and it's going to be something you'll have to sand out after you paint if you over sand on the drywall. Had that happen to me one time, and it was really a pain to fix. So you don't want to do that. So make sure you don't hit the edge of this paper too hard. And then after we sand our whole joint and got everything smooth, we're just going to lightly go across the whole piece of drywall and maybe throw a couple swipes across these screws that we patched just to knock off any debris that could be on here. And that's really it with the pole sanding on the flats of the wall. Now, after we go over it with the pole sander, we are going to switch to our sanding sponge. And this is where I like to actually take the light and shine up the wall like so. So if we notice anything that's real obvious, like right here, could get a little extra attention. So we're going to sand that out. And as you can see, that little groove that's right there is now going to disappear. And again, you definitely want to make sure you wear your mask and glasses here. This is just for a demonstration on how to do the sanding. So right here on these edges, you just want to give that a little extra attention if it needs it. And now after we got that joint sanded and it looks really good, I don't see any grooves in it, that's what you want. We now hit the screw holes, and all we got to do, same idea, just shine a light on it. Just give it a quick sanding. And again, don't over sand the drywall. Then after it's smooth, it looks really good right there. That's all we got to do to the drywall to sand it. So the flats are pretty straightforward. Now let me show you a corner. When it comes to sanding the corners, I usually just use the sanding block here because it has the shape of the corner on the sanding sponge. And we're going to place that right back into the corner. And then we're going to sand lightly and just kind of shape that corner to the squareness of the sanding block or sanding sponge, whichever term you want to use. So you need to sand that out, and then while I'm sanding it, I'm going to hit where we put the drywall mud at the same time, so we hit them both at once. And then after we get one side sanded, we're going to switch to the other side, kind of do the same thing. Just make sure we shape that corner as nice and sharp as we can without over sanding and taking all the drywall mud off. And then a place that meets in a ceiling like this, we're going to hit that as well. All the corners where they come in together, we're going to get those nice and sharp. So that's really the idea to the corners, is just making sure that you use a block of some kind to shape them into a nice sharp corner. And then that's all there is to it. Now I'm going to sand the rest of this garage. In order to minimize the drywall dust in the atmosphere, there are pole sanders that are attached to a vacuum that vacuum the dust as you sand. Those can be expensive and they are a little bit more cumbersome instead of just using a pole sander. But I wanted to let you know those options are out there. And if you want to know how I hung the drywall in this garage, I'll put a video link in the top right hand corner of the screen, and you'll see me step by step on how we installed all of the drywall. If you would like to see how I'm going to mud and tape all of this drywall, check out this video. It'll help you out.